A G20 country that's been growing at 6% annually since 2010, Indonesia's GDP stands currently at over $1 trillion. In the past decade alone, the Indonesian middle class has almost doubled. But industry sectors are confronted with many challenges, including the urgent need for infrastructure development, environmental considerations, lack of a skilled and qualified workforce, and advanced technologies to increase yields. Increasingly, local and regional governments as well as NGOs are working closely with business to meet these demands and develop more sustainable industries with a commitment to greater social and environmental responsibility.
Our president has already stated base strategy in development in Indonesia. We call pro-growth, pro-poor, pro-job, and pro-environment.
We work with RSPU Indonesia to develop the national standard based on the global standard. And at the same time, it took some years for the standard of the international standard being agreed on Indonesian interpretations.
This is also the very first priority of our developments, to keep our environment for our son and for our grandsons after years from now. We learn year by year to make a better policy to next year.
To establish how Indonesia is achieving these goals, we're investigating two of the country's most significant agricultural industries: palm oil, the nation's second biggest agricultural product, and cocoa, also a major industry that's experienced tremendous growth in the past 25 years. So how are corporations dealing with the global appetite for palm oil, which is found in most household products? Indeed, almost anything with saturated fat contains palm oil. This massive demand makes the industry a corporate Titanic. Here at Palembang in South Sumatra, one company is striving to overcome the challenges which the industry presents while applying leading sustainability certification standards. Due to the size and remote location, Cargill acts not just as an employer, but also as a proxy civic authority, providing employees with everything from housing to recreational facilities to schools, kindergartens and places of worship.
Expansion of the palm oil will provide manpower opportunity to work.
In total, we have about 800 husband-wife partnership employees in our plantation business, so it's a significant part of our business.
Saya masuk ke Cargill sudah sejak tahun 2004, jadi tepatnya sudah 9 tahun. Yang saya lakukan adalah, posisi saya itu adalah Compensation and Benefit Officer.
We want to make sure the palm oil development does not negatively impact the local communities around. That's one. The other is that if you are an employer in that industry, you make sure that the people who work for you are also treated in the highest standards.
The Indonesian government awarded PT Hindoli the Platinum CSR Award, naming it the top business for corporate responsibility. This recognizes partnerships with a large number of local farmers who are called smallholders.
The biggest factor that we have is our work with the smallholders, and so at this particular location we have 8,800 smallholders.
Pak, dulu di sini kebun kami ini semuanya. Ini tanaman. Kami sangat berubah sekali. Jadi awalnya kami tidak memiliki apa-apa, kehidupan kami kekurangan. Setelah kami masuk plasma PT Indoli, kami bisa hidup kecukupan, bisa membangun rumah, bisa menyekolahkan anak, bisa nikahkan anak juga. Tapi tanaman ini belum menghasilkan pada saat itu.
And so we've worked with them from the beginning. So that starts with the development of their land, training up the smallholders on good agricultural practices, transferring that land to them so they become owner-operators, and then buying their crop and helping them produce as much crop as possible and economically so that they have income from that crop. We reserved various jobs, in particular for females, for women.
We have to ensure that women have equal rights.
Pada awalnya saya menganggap perusahaan perkebunan itu bukan tempat yang tepat untuk wanita bekerja, dikarenakan perusahaan perkebunan kebanyakan ada di daerah terpencil. Tetapi begitu saya bergabung dengan PT Indoli, apa yang saya takutkan itu tidak ada, dan hak-hak kami sebagai wanita itu sangat dilindungi oleh perusahaan.
According to the World Bank, 32.5 million Indonesians currently live below the poverty line. Access to basic needs such as education proves difficult without assistance.
We do provide schools here, and so with the schools, we work with the government curriculum. We sponsor the teachers, we provide the facilities, we have buses to take them to school and to their home, and deliver a quality education for the children here.
This orphanage is sponsored by Hindoli to help the less fortunate. PT Hindoli funds the orphanage by matching voluntary donations by employees. This also helps to finance facilities like a library, dining room, kitchen, and a scholarship program.
Nah, sejak tahun 2008 kami kenal dengan manajer PT Hindoli. Nah, dari situlah kami bisa dibantunya, Pak. Alhamdulillah semega ini kan.
Poverty in Indonesia is largely restricted to rural areas. The percentage of poor in these parts of the country is much greater than in urban areas. That's prompted some corporations to help ensure a better life for the underprivileged.
Ibu sama bapak awalnya adalah keluarga yang akur. Tapi karena keadaan ekonomi, sosial, jadi merekanya pisah. Lalu bapak sakit. Bapak sakit dan pelan-pelan bapak udah nggak ada.
Kalau harapan saya tuh anak-anak Pak bisa sekolah, bahkan sampai ke perguruan tinggi. Jadi nanti dia membekalkan hidupnya itu sudah seperti anak-anak orang yang punya ayah dan ibu. Sejauh pernah saya lihat ya, selama berdirinya PT Hindoli ataupun Syargil, yang mana dulu memang anak-anak di sini untuk beraktivitas dalam kegiatan belajar, terutama untuk sarana dan sarana itu, apalagi dulu sekolah ini gedungnya bertiang, ya di samping ada kepedulian daripada perusahaan itu, ya mungkin bisa dirasakan oleh anak-anak beraktivitas dalam kegiatan belajar dengan nyaman.
Up next, we explore the efforts that are being taken to ensure a sustainable future. Increasing global palm oil production has led to environmental concerns from NGOs. They're worried about the conservation of forests, loss of biodiversity, and the cultivation of peatland, which contributes to forest fires and climate change.
We have been working for many years on palm oil issues. We will keep supporting the palm oil industries. We of course first working with the government to work on the incentive policy for green products on palm oil.
With our plantations, long before the time of the Roundtable of Sustainable Palm Oil and different initiatives like that, we already had implemented practices like no burning policies. We were already in degraded land, and so we weren't going into areas that were forested, and respecting buffer zones and those types of things. It was part of our practice.
We believe that all peatland should not be converted for any agriculture forms, palm oil or others. In many cases, when peatland are drained, the wildfires, which is so hard to control, got into this peatland, and it burned just everything, including the palm oil, the seedling palm oils.
So there are again a few tools within our standards that the RSPO has to ensure that the environmental pillar of our standards is kept. The first tool is what we call, in our standards we say that when you develop, you cannot clear primary forest or areas of high conservation value. What are areas of high conservation value? If you have a rare, threatened and endangered species, whether it be plant life, fauna or flora, you can't touch it. Now I think for the RSPO, if you look across commodities, if you look across markets, the issue of sustainability is really picking up. Yeah, climate change is not going to disappear. The debate on climate change is not going to disappear. In fact, it's going to be more intense over the next years.
Clearly, the future of Indonesia as the world's largest producer of palm oil depends on environmental sustainability as a fundamental guiding principle. It's obvious that what's good for the environment is good for business, and sustainable farming is the key to the livelihoods of the smallholder farmers. Up next, we see how teaching a community will forever change the way cocoa is produced. Everyone loves chocolate, and as a global commodity, demand is in danger of outgrowing supply. But just like chocolate, too much too fast isn't good for you. Does the same apply to Indonesia's ability to sustain global demand? Indonesia is now the world's third largest cocoa bean producer after the Ivory Coast and Ghana, with an 11% share of world cocoa bean production. Cocoa is now cultivated on more than 1.5 million hectares of land here and generates $1.2 billion worth of exports. However, bean quality and farm profitability have declined in recent years, partly because of aging tree stocks, inadequate use of fertilizer, and premature pod harvesting, which in turn has led to poorer soil, more pests and disease, and lower product quality. This raises the prospect of an impending chocolate famine, which can only be avoided with disease-free forests. Today, scientists and corporations alike have joined forces to find a solution that will preserve vanishing rainforests and our precious chocolate supply. Just as cutting down on the burning of fossil fuels could help to avert global catastrophe and reduce acid rain, solving the so-called chocolate crisis could also help the plants and animals that depend on the sort of rainforest ecosystem preferred by cocoa. One of the companies meeting the challenge in all this is Petra Foods.
The challenge for the world of cocoa is to create more cocoa so that we don't have a shortage in 10 years' time. But in order to do that, we have to have more farmers, and certainly farmers that are younger and are able to grow more cocoa. So that's the main objective.
Cocoa is a people commodities because it's grown by smallholder farmers. You can harvest cocoa all the time during the year. So when the farmers need money, they can harvest and then they can sell it.
Hi, Tommy. Hi, good to see you. Right. So this is Pack Tommy. This is
Tommy, nice to see you.
How are you?
Okay.
I'm fine.
What's on the left here?
It is a production box.
Okay.
Okay. One box is 400 kilos.
Okay.
Ya. Sebelumnya saya hanya memproduksi coklat dalam jumlah kecil, hanya 40 ton saja. Tapi sekarang dengan join dengan program seeds-nya Petra, itu saat ini saya sudah punya kapasitas 1000 sampai 1200 ton per tahun.
Ya, lambung koko, fermented.
Right. Fermented, sun-dried.
Ya, seperti coklat.
Yeah.
Farmers give their beans to Tommy for processing. Once fermented, Petra will then purchase them. Farmers then start the growing cycle for another harvest. This gives them the chance to apply what they've learned from Petra and to see the yields grow from harvest to harvest.
I haven't come across really anyone else in this part of the world that's so committed to trying to build a holistic supply chain where his farmers are winning, he's winning, he's getting a better quality cocoa, and at the end of the day, we are able to buy a product that we want to use.
Farmers could literally double their yield by practicing good agricultural husbandry. And this is Petra's goal, to encourage and teach us to become good husbands to Mother Earth. Good husbandry isn't easy, of course, but it's essential if we're to have a healthy relationship with the planet. Seeds is part of Petra's global program that ensures the quality and traceability of its cocoa supply chain.
The first lesson, for me anyway, and it's very personal, is trying to get them a quick win on getting more yield, because that means more money for them. Seeds was created 2.5 years ago. Its objective is to create a holistic supply chain, from seeds to consumers, all the way to mouth.
Thamrin is one of the many farmers who's now using higher yielding sustainable methods.
Perbedaannya sangat banyak sekali. Ya, peningkatan selama ini setelah kami kenal dengan program seed, ya kami banyak mengetahui tentang teknologi-teknologi untuk perawatan coklat pohon kakao kami di kebun.
Kalau putih,
ya.
Kalau putih ini kambingnya cukup bagus, Mbak.
Training yang kami terima dari PDJ Delpi banyak sekali, terutama masalah teknologi untuk pengelolaan kebun, seperti umpama teknik sambung samping, pembasmian hama, pemupukan, dan pasca panen. Ya, semua masalah coklat dikasih training semua.
Cocoa is a little bit of an ancient crop. Many of the techniques taught in cocoa today go back 50, 100 years. I think, you know, where we were yesterday, where we have our training center and nursery, there are people in that environment who had given up cocoa farming. They'd stopped several years ago, and now they've come back into cocoa. I think that's absolutely clear from that example, that obviously people can see a future in cocoa farming where the training is correct.
Ini buah yang bagus ini, karena ini kalau
I do believe that cocoa is still the main important crops for farmers, and that's why we need to help them to grow better cocoa, and then to really get economic value of cocoa, and then increasing their lives.
ya semenjak kami petani kakao di daerah kami bermitra dengan Petra Food, ya kesejahteraan kami meningkat karena ya di samping kami penjualan ada premi, pengelolaan kebun juga lebih baik, jadi hasil lebih maksimal dan harga juga lebih mahal.
Petra Foods aims to increase yields while observing the fundamentals of agricultural practice and husbandry. Their philosophy is that basic education can make a massive difference.
The government's very committed to growing quality cocoa. Indonesia is the third largest cocoa grower in the world, 450,000 tons. They want to move that up to 600,000 or 700,000 tons in, say, 4 or 5 years. It's obvious that with enough effort, you can really make a change. And I think that's what we've demonstrated in the Seeds program.
When you look back at the two agricultural companies we visited, there are obvious differences in the way they operate. PT Hindoli has a permanent presence on the ground, while Petra prefers to work with local farmers. But they do share the same vision. They have a commitment to a more sustainable future, to a better environment. But equally important, they have a commitment to greater prosperity in the community so that everybody benefits. Clearly, governments, NGOs and corporations are taking their responsibilities seriously. But there are still major challenges ahead, and the clock is ticking. Time may be running out if we're to protect the environment, empower communities, and ensure sustainable growth for generations to come.